Hello, and welcome back to my revisiting Star Trek reviews, where this time I'm up as far as Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. And yeah, as I'm recording this video, it's actually Easter, so somewhat kind of fitting, as an Easter movie, with Space Jesus himself, Spock, coming back to life in this one. But anyway, what did I think of this movie? Because a lot of people have mixed feelings about The Search for Spock. Me personally, I enjoy it. I enjoyed it the first time I watched it, and I enjoyed it today when I rewatched it. It's definitely the most underrated of the Star Trek movies that I can say for sure. So, what is the plot of The Search for Spock? Well, it's essentially taking place not long after the end of the overrated Wrath of Khan, where the Enterprise is limping back to Starbase, expecting it to have a refit and have it being shipped off. But when they finally get back after having most of the cadet crew that was on there being reassigned at probably a different starbase, including Lieutenant Savick and Kirk's son, who are actually going to investigate the Genesis planet that formed at the end of the last one. They all, except for Scotty, get essentially told that, you're having an extended shore leave. The Enterprise is due to be decommissioned. She's been in active service for 20 years at this point, and Scotty is being sent to a new ship, one of the two new ship classes that we see in this movie, being the USS Excelsior NX-2000. Yes, it's the first one of the ship's class with transwarp drive. And they expect it to work. They expect it to break all these different speed records. Does it work? Does it shite? It does not work. Tiny bit of tinkering thanks to Scotty. Anyway, so in Kirk's home, they're all having a toast to Spock, because on as they were getting into space dock, Dr. McCoy, who Spock had mind melded with in the end of the last movie, broke into the quarters, with Spock's mind being somewhat active, basically telling him to bring McCoy and his body to Vulcan. But obviously, that did not happen because they sent Spock's body out into space. Luckily, it actually landed on the Genesis planet. Um, Spock's father shows up, basically explains what I just explained there. Basically telling Kirk to go retrieve his body and get back so that they can take Spock's Katra out from him and back into Spock's body. And whilst all this is happening, a Klingon ship is on its way after buying essentially intel for the Genesis device. And the Klingon captain is played by none other than Doc Brown. Yes, Christopher Lloyd, before he was Doc Brown, was a Klingon captain. And quite a good one at that. He played it really, really well. I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. Um, so yeah, now we cut to seeing another brand new ship class, the Oberth class, a class of ship that is should not exist. Shouldn't have existed after this movie. They should have been decommissioned right away. Why do I say that? Well, because after the Klingon bird of prey decloaks, it fires off a shot to knock out its engines, the Oberth's engine. Keep in mind, Oberth's shields are probably raised at that point. Uh, it destroys the Oberth class in one hit. Just one. How this ship class was still in service in the time of the Next Generation, and hell, they threw it up against the Borg not once, but fucking twice, baffles me how that ship was still in service. Even up until the point of first contact. I don't get it. I really don't get it. If that ship is so capable of easily being destroyed by one measly Klingon torpedo, it should not be a class that's continuing in service. They should just mothball that shit right away. I'm getting distracted. So, before the Oberth ship gets destroyed, or the USS Grissom, I believe it's called, Savick and David beam down to the Genesis planet because they've obviously through scanners located Spock's burial. You know, the torpedo tube that he was shot in. Turns out that there's a life form in it, and it is, yeah, Spock, thanks to the powers of the Genesis device and something that uh, Dave and Marcus done to something illegal to get the Genesis project going, has an adverse effect on Spock. It's brought him not only back to life, but he's growing from an infant to the Spock that we know. And he ages with the planet. So as he's aging rapidly, so is the planet, and that's not good because the planet is going to implode on itself. So the Enterprise gets there. It fires off a shot, uh, one singular shot onto the Klingon bird of prey, and it gets one in return. And because it never got like fixed from the battle with Khan on the Reliant, it goes haywire. Like, not haywire, but it goes sour for Kirk, to the point where the only way to get out of this, because the Klingon ship wants them to surrender and all that, is to blow up the ship. So that's what they do. They put it into the struct sequence. They beam down to the Genesis planet. Basically, basically the entire crew of this Klingon vessel beams over, and the Enterprise is destroyed. And then after Marcus is killed, Kirk's son does get killed in that process before the Enterprise blows up. William Shatner does have a really good scene of him processing that, constantly saying, "You Klingon bastards, you murdered my son," because he saved Savick. They were going to kill Savick, but he, of course, being Kirk's son, jumped in the way and self-sacrificed himself in order for Savick and both young Spock to survive. Eventually, the Klingon captain is killed, and they take over the Klingon ship, which is now going to be christened the USS Bounty in the next movie, which also has some relevance in season 3 of Star Trek Picard, because it's in a fleet museum. And the movie ends with them going back to Vulcan and, having Spock's Katra moved from McCoy into back into Spock, and the movie ends. So yeah, I still enjoy it for what it is. Not a lot of people like it. Like I said, growing up before watching this movie, which was the last of the Star Trek movies I actually needed to watch at that time, I've been always told the odd number Star Treks are the worst, the even number Star Treks are the best. And from my personal experience, especially now with rewatching them, they're not all that bad. They have a lot of redeeming qualities in them and stuff that I thoroughly enjoy, and it's definitely not one that I return to as often as, say, The Wrath of Khan or First Contact, but it still is an enjoyable adventure from beginning to end that I genuinely do enjoy. And yeah, that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all on the next review, which I believe, because I'm swapping dates here, should be the 5 Doctors review. So I'll catch you all on that video.